howdy, and welcome all to the Big and Bright podcast. My name is Nick. This here next to me is either Chad Hanks or Macho Man Randy Savage.
Woo! What's up, Nick?
What on earth are you wearing, James?
I'm wearing some sweet Pit Vipers. Woo!
Why
This brand is actually America 3000, so I am super American now.
Okay. All right. If you come over to my house at any point wearing those, I will turn you away. I'm just saying.
Oh,
that's some shady stuff. You wear that with
because they're shades. Of course, they're shady.
You wear that with a COVID mask, and you could rob a bank.
Yeah,
100%. Ain't no way anybody's recognizing.
I need you to stop letting people know about my plans, though, Nick. I told you that in confidence.
I'll tell you what, brother. Take those off. Take those off. We got an episode to shoot.
All right.
Take them off right now, friends. We got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff, most of it having to do with the Rona, but never let it be said that we don't keep our promises. We promised we'd be talking about the Dems in hiding, and we are going to continue talking about that. But we've been getting some feedback from some of you, our viewers, and never let it be said that we don't listen to the feedback. We kind of made a shift sort of early on in this podcast from more of a long form into sort of short bullet points, keeping it manageable so that you guys can watch our stuff and you seem to like our content, which is awesome. But one of the biggest pieces of feedback we were getting from the comments and from people kind of communicating with us is, where are the three hots? I really missed the three hots. Because that's what we did. We took out the three hots. We just did the big and bright idea. And they say, why can't you bring back the three hots? I love the three hots. So we are going to do it for you right here, right now. This is full episode, 3 hot takes.
3 hots.
All right, 3 hot takes. Topic first.
Texas Tribune flubs another article.
Topic the second.
Mayor's mask mandates against Governor Abbott's.
And topic the third.
Well, Democrats still going to be arrested.
Oh boy. We're not taking them to jail, though.
No.
Civil arrests are dumb. I figure, like, arrest, you go to jail, period. Right? Go to jail. You can do your job from jail.
Avoiding your job because you don't like it's pretty dumb. Most people get fired for that, but,
That's very true. Yeah. Well, we can fire them in 2022. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and talk about topic the first. Texas Tribune. So, guys, I'm not going to lie. We really like Texas Tribune on this show. We use Texas Tribune. In fact, I think we cite them on most of our episodes. We like to use them because
it's basically our state's New York Times.
Yeah, specifically because they are a left-wing site. Now, we are not unaware of our biases here on this show. Obviously, we have a right-wing leaning, a right-wing bent on this show. I tend to be I don't know if I tend to be more or less right-wing than James. It just depends on the issue, I suppose, right? But, we try to be reasonable. We try to think, but guys, we're Texans. And like true Texans, most of us are red, lean red. But the Texas Tribune does not. That's why we like to use them as a source. Because we know that if we use them as a source, we're not just confirming our own biases. Correct. And for what it's worth, they do report on decent stories. Now, I wouldn't say their journalism is fantastic, but they report on stories that do matter. It's not like they're ignoring, important issues. So we like them. We like to use them. And I am totally in favor of them sticking around. I do not want them to be canceled. I do not want them to be shut down. I want their voice to be heard, right? I want every idiotic thing that they say to be heard. And so that's, that's fine. That's what we're going to do. But you have to have some basic level of journalistic integrity, and you have to be halfway decent at your job. And guys, the Tribune just reported an article that does not, none of those things are present. It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard, but it sounds super clickbaity. And I will say, I have had conversations with individuals who have cited this article as a reason for, vaccine and mask mandates. And you're absolutely killing the collective intelligence by doing this. So I'm going to let James break down exactly what this article was, because there's a lot of numbers, and I don't like to talk about numbers. I just like to yell at people. So James, talk numbers for me. Tell me what this article was. Tell me what happened. All of those sorts of things. What's going on?
Well, Nick, there was an article that they put out for Texas RSV COVID-19 children's hospitals. They released it saying that over 5,800 children had been hospitalized during a 7-day period in August, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. However, according to Fox News, who was the only person that was somewhat reliable that actually reported on this, there seems to be some kind of wonky stuff there, because that number actually refers to children hospitalized with COVID-19 since the pandemic began. In actuality, 783 children were admitted at Texas hospitals between July 1 and August 9 of this year. There's a nice quote by Mark Twain or Winston Churchill, depending on what you want to say. "A lie can travel around the world and back again before the truth even gets its pants on or gets its boots laced up, depending on which version you like better."
Mm-hmm. And that is precisely what happened here.
Yeah, they had to put a correction, and they put it, to be fair, they put it right at the beginning of the article that they actually screwed up. But that part didn't really get retweeted. The part that actually went around the internet, because Texas is super dangerous and Abbott is a Neanderthal because he can't put mask mandates. There's a person by the name of Jennifer Rubin, a Washington Post blogger, who deleted the tweet right after, the actual truth came out.
Mm-hmm.
Say,
I'm going to say this, and like I said, we want to try and respect journalists here. We want to try and respect them when they do good work, and we want to acknowledge the good work that they do. Jennifer Rubin's a hack. I'm sorry. Yeah. Jennifer Rubin is absurdly terrible at her job. The reason why she stays at the Washington Post, if it's not strictly for political reasons, I don't know why, because she's not a good journalist. She's like Nancy Grace. She just yells at you about different things. She sees something, she jumps, and she hopes that it sticks. And then if it doesn't stick, well, then she'll maybe delete the tweet, right? Maybe delete the tweet. But she certainly won't, give any retractions. Now, here's the thing, and I got a bone to pick with Twitter right now, because is this not misinformation related to COVID-19?
No, she deleted it, so it's totally legit.
I don't care. Jennifer Rubin spread misinformation about COVID-19. When Donald Trump did that, he was booted from the platform indefinitely. Get this woman off your platform. She is doing exactly what your code of conduct, what your policy says she should not do. Kick her off. Have some consistency in how you enforce your policies, Twitter.
Not gonna happen.
About the COVID death rates among children, because this is an issue, and this is something that's really sort of, if you think about it, you want to try and not get into conspiracy territory, but it does sort of make sense. They want you to think that children are dying from COVID.
Oh yeah.
Now, let me be clear, they're not. They want you to think that children are dying from COVID. We're going to talk in a second about mask mandates for schools, right? Mask mandates for schools are a big thing, because here's the thing. I was listening to a commentator recently who made a good point about this. They say if they say COVID could kill you, right? Meaning me, right? COVID could kill me. I'd say, well, I'm an adult. I can weigh my own decisions, and I'm willing to take whatever risk when it's my life. But when they say COVID could kill your kids, now you're pushing some serious panic, and panic causes all sorts of things to happen. So
it's almost like they want you to panic.
They really, it's so sad to say this, but I really think that these people want COVID to be affecting kids. Now, let's talk about these 5,800, so 5,800. Yeah. Let's talk about these 5,800 kids. Most of these kids, now I have very close relationships with people who work in healthcare, specifically pediatric healthcare. And what they're telling me is this: most of these kids are not kids in the sense that we think of them. Most of them are teenagers. Most of them are barely teenagers, right? You're talking about 17 and 18-year-olds. And a lot of these, anywhere between 14 through 18-year-olds who are getting COVID, which again, 5,800 is, every one of those is a tragedy. Now, these aren't 5,800 deaths. They're hospitalizations, right? These are hospital beds.
Right. That's the other tricky thing is like, we want to talk about cases. You didn't want to talk about cases when it wasn't going so well. You don't talk about deaths. Now the deaths is kind of waning.
Now the deaths is going down. Now we're talking about cases. This is classic shifting the goalpost. And I've had conversations with people about this. Like, are you aware that Texas hit their highest case rate? And I'm like, I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't. And I know that sounds really callous to say.
No one focuses on cases. How many cases of the flu? How many cases that no one gives a crap.
I care about I care about hospital beds and I care about deaths. That's what I care about.
Nick, do you know how many of those kids since 2020, the 5,800, since we now know it's literally from the beginning, not in August. Do you know how many of those children actually died?
It's less than 500. I know that. I don't know the exact number.
59 deaths, and they even gave it to the age of 19. So they even actually increased it to actually age of majority in 2 years of age of majority. That's still too many.
Yeah. Did you say 59?
59.
All right.
59, and that's the entire time, not in August. Not because
are you talking just in Texas, or are you talking national?
Just in Texas.
Just in Texas.
That's all that matters.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure the number's bigger if you
according to Johns Hopkins for all United States, it's around 370 something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still not a lot. Thank God that actually.
Yeah. Thank God, this is a good thing. This is something we should be celebrating, that this isn't killing.
But we can't. We gotta have that fear.
But the Democrats don't want it. The Democrats want it to be affecting our kids because fear motivates people to work, right? And if you can shift
it motivates you to click on their articles. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, that's another thing.
No one's watching their screens, so they need clicks.
Yeah, that's another thing that's really interested me here is when you talk about the media, right? It's more sexy to say that the media is involved in some grand conspiracy to control the populace. I think it's a bit more primitive than that. I think it's just money. I think that you're going to be, media makes more money when they're more sensational. And so you take the otherwise natural political bent of the people in that media and you have to sensationalize it. Does that make sense?
I mean, this was a reporter, someone who actually has a standard. And I mean, I can say what I want to about Texas Tribune, but even in their articles that me and you disagree with, they still provide links of like, hey, here's what we got information, and we want to pull and put the information out there for everybody to see. Fair. At least you gave me a source of where it came from. They had all ability to check the CDC, and they were like, nope, just gonna move along. And then once it got proved untrue, 2 days later, sorry guys, we're just gonna fix that and move along. And I'm gonna repost it. We fixed it. Just gonna fix it on the site.
I think just the way that we have our media designed, right, that's based on clicks and it's based on ratings, which I don't really know how else you would design it, but that lends itself naturally towards a media political polarization.
Yeah, what's our base? How do we get our base to read more of our stuff? There you go.
That's what it is. You have to be sensational. You have to take your political leanings and push them out to the farthest extent. And that's what we did here, right? That's what Jennifer Rubin did, certainly. And she doesn't want to make a retraction. Texas Tribune did make a retraction. Good on them. But
it's at the beginning of the article, not at the end. It actually is at the beginning, so I'll give them credit for that.
But I think that this was just, and you could say, well, it was a mistake. That's a really big mistake. And that is clearly a mistake that you made because you saw something that affirmed your narrative and you jumped, right? So even if it wasn't intentional, that still doesn't mean it's not a clear demonstration of media bias. Yeah. And again, this kind of goes back to what we're talking about with vaccines. The vaccine solution, really the solution here is to just, the long-term solution with COVID is to just be healthier, right? And this is coming from a guy who's overweight, right? I understand it's difficult to maintain, it's difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle, but maintaining a healthy lifestyle is the best long-term solution for COVID.
Well, that's the weird thing about the deaths. They release the deaths and they'll do it like, all right, here's this age group, here's some will say here's comorbidities, here's not comorbidities. Most of them don't do that part because then it will lose a sensation again. But what they don't really release is like, what was the BMI? Can you give me like a range of like BMI and how it does it? Because we know for a fact that if you're overweight, you're not healthy, despite what these new blogs try to say, like, you're fine the way you are. Obviously not. you're not.
Which
Or you
leads
wouldn't
us
see
to
these logs to confirm people to have like, yeah, see, this person says I'm actually okay. Well, no, you are okay, but you can always be better.
and that mentality leads us to the vaccine crisis, right? To say, well, get a vaccine, because if you get a vaccine, you won't have to be healthy, right? But people that are healthy, I'm just going to say this, don't need a vaccine. If you eliminate the people that have comorbidities, right? If you eliminate the people who are overweight, if you eliminate these sorts of people, and just look at the actual numbers, they are like unbelievably small, right? These numbers that are of people who are otherwise perfectly healthy and have no comorbidities. So really,
no, there's a reason why
term,
those stories get sensationalized too. Is like, see, this guy was a bodybuilder, and look what it's doing. He's still trying to fight. A month later, it's like there's a reason you're showing him is because he's the only one. It's kind of like saying like, oh, like the whole argument for unarmed black people getting shot. Washington Post is confirmed, but it's 20 people maybe. All right, the reason you know their names because that big of a list. That big of a list. No, get out of here.
And this is the deal, right? Is that if you are healthy, and also make an actual assessment as to whether you're healthy, right? If you're not healthy, then yeah, vaccination might be something you want to consider. But if you are healthy, you don't need a vaccine. And especially if your kids are healthy, they don't need a vaccine.
And just report it better. Just report it better.
Yeah. And they don't need a mask. Which leads us again to topic the second.
Boom.
What's topic the second, James?
Bunch of trash mayors in Texas.
Okay.
Texas Tribune.
Elaborate.
We're using them again.
Go for it.
Officials in Dallas and Bexar counties, and also Mayor Adler of Austin, mandated masks for children for schools in all their counties. Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins, Skeletor, went a step further on Wednesday and mandated that child care centers and businesses must all require employees and customers to wear masks despite any record of vaccines. Almost seems like a power grab to me, because you claim it's going to be for schools and you somehow include businesses.
So vaccinated and unvaccinated people have to wear a mask.
Inside the building. Yep.
Vaccinated people and under. Oh my.
And actually, according to the order, which because my business, because I work in Dallas County, actually that you have to have some kind of health procedure in place. If you do not, for 3 days, you could be fined $1,000 per day for not having a procedure in place. And all it really means is, oh yeah, put a piece of paper that says mask required on our door. That's it.
This is a claim that is completely not backed up by any evidence that I know, but I would be really interested to see if there's any evidence out there to back this up, because I think it's true. I think most of the people that you see walking around with masks on in public are vaccinated.
Yes.
I think at least 90. I do not think that there are still people who are unvaccinated that are like, well, I'm not vaccinated, I need to wear a mask. I mean, I just don't. And here's the thing. If you are vaccinated and you're still wearing a mask, that is the behavior of a mentally ill person. That is the behavior of a psychopath, of a neurotic, anxious person.
That's like taking antibiotics after you're done with your regimen of antibiotics. Like, dude, you're good.
Yeah. If you're vaccinated and you're wearing a mask, and I've talked to somebody that I knew who is vaccinated and still wears a mask out in public, and I say, stop, why are you doing that? He's like, well, I'm not doing it to protect myself. I'm doing it to protect unvaccinated people. And I go, okay. And I looked at him, I said, okay, unvaccinated people don't want your help. Unvaccinated people have made an assessment based on their lifestyle, based on their health, based on their, risk, and they've decided that it's not for them to wear a mask, and they don't need you to not wear one because you're vaccinated, right? And you don't need to worry about them.
That was the point of getting the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. And let me say, the vaccines are effective. I think it doesn't take much to look at to say the vaccines aren't effective, because when the vaccine rollout happened, deaths and hospitalizations plummeted. I mean, this correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation, but that's a hell of a coincidence to see that freaking cliff dive and I mean, you can go look at the CDC's websites, right? You can see, and they'll say, well, it was on its way down. Yeah, it was going like this, and then the vaccines happened, it went, right? So,
but then the Delta variant.
Yeah, Well, the Delta variant. People with vaccines, people who are vaxxed can still spread Delta. Okay, but Delta variant doesn't have a higher mortality rate than COVID. And so if
But it
you
has
are,
cases, Nick. It has cases.
I don't care. I don't care about cases. I don't care about how many people have a cough in the state of Texas because we've never cared about that. I've never seen daily case rates for flu. I've never seen daily case rates for the cold because if no
I've
one's
never seen
dying,
the COVID counter since Biden took office. It's weird how that went off all of the major news sources.
and if nobody's dying and we're not flooding the hospitals, I don't care. And I do not care. I mean, I do not care if unvaccinated people are out with vaccinated people because the vaccinated people are protected because the vaccines have a 95% effectiveness rate at keeping you out of the hospital. Yes, even with Delta. And the unvaccinated people have made this decision and they don't care. So let people be adults. The only
Yeah.
reason I can see why people are still wearing masks, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, the mask is Biden's MAGA hat.
Yes.
The
Yes.
mask
Yes.
is
Yes.
Biden's sign. You're wearing it to say, I'm not a Trump supporter.
I'm not a Republican.
I'm not a Republican. Exactly. And it's absolutely, and I had somebody say this to me. They said, I don't wear a mask to virtue signal. I wear a mask to prove I'm not a Trump supporter. And I go, that's the definition of virtue signaling. There is no medical reason to continue wearing a mask.
No, well, here's what happened actually. Like Abbott made an executive order so there will be no mask mandates, even in schools, because they're all up in arms because schools are about to start. So that's their new controversy. Well, Abbott and Attorney General Paxton said they would go to court to block Dallas County's top official, Clay Jenkins, from his basically restraining order. That's how basically it is. Like I'm doing a restraining order against his executive order, and they appealed at the Fifth Court of Appeals, which happens to be in Dallas. Well, as of last night, I found out State of Fifth Court of Appeals handed down Dallas County judge a victory, upholding his order mandating masks in schools and businesses. Weirdly enough, if you don't know, the Texas Court of Appeals in Dallas is Democrat. Just so happens that Jenkins is a Democrat. But our Supreme Court, if you remember way back on episodes we talked about that election, that's mostly Republican. So it will be filed with the Texas Supreme Court, and it likely will be ruled on. And just hopefully maybe some bias. If there was bias then, screw it. Let's put bias other way around. Either way, doesn't matter. Let's see what else is on here. This it says it's not under the Texas Disaster Act, which was put in 1975, which makes the governor commander in chief of state's response to a disaster. Somehow we're not in a pandemic if you're actually going with Clay Jenkins, but then when Clay Jenkins' reasons for why the mask mandate is because we're still in a pandemic. So kind of both sides of your mouth here.
I'm gonna make a ruling on this one.
Okay.
The pandemic is over. The pandemic has ended. We are not at pandemic levels of deaths, hospitalizations.
Tap.
So tap, case closed. That's it's just and that's how we need to operate. Anyway, I'm sorry, but Jenkins is still wanting Dallas,
yeah.
and he's just for Dallas.
Right now, it is upheld because Dallas Court of Appeals has upheld it. So I got to deal with the freaking mask rules again at my work for no reason whatsoever. And I have a person that works with me that she fully vaxxed, wasn't wearing it, was totally fine on Monday. Tuesday hits, all of a sudden now, if you're in her office, she's wearing a mask. He's like, what changed? Nothing changed.
The law changed. Now, let me see if I can make a case. I want to try and steelman this because let's look at this from a legal perspective. Is it not good, right? For you and I would say both support federalism, right?
Correct.
Right? This idea of localizing government is better than centralizing government. Is this not a case for local municipalities fighting back against the higher up of the state? Is that not a good thing?
Possibly. I mean, it is important to let your own city do things that are outside maybe someone who is in Austin, which Greg Abbott is. Maybe you don't know about Dallas. Maybe you don't know what's going on, but you provided no stats to back up anything. So it's kind of, and again, you're saying there's a pandemic.
Mhm.
Well, if there's a pandemic, that means there's an emergency, and the governor has a right to be commander in chief over emergencies and how it will play out. Well, then you're saying, but he doesn't have that right because he's not doing it. Well, then it's not an emergency. So one way or another, either there is an emergency and he gets to talk about it. If there's not an emergency, then you get to talk about it. But
Yeah.
you're claiming that there is an emergency, which means that de facto then goes back to Abbott.
That's true.
It's a weird synopsis, but that's basically what it is.
You need to decide for yourself, right? You need to decide for yourself whether or not this is a state of emergency or whether it's not a state of emergency. And I'm going to go ahead and say that it's not. We are not in a state of emergency. The pandemic, for all intents and purposes, has ended. So what
So if that's the case, then they're fully allowed to do this. It's fine. But you're saying you're doing this because the pandemic hasn't ended, which means it goes back to Abbott.
That's true. So what
just find better scientific studies to actually back up anything you say.
And I'm really conflicted about this, man, because I do believe that when we should default to local governments when it comes to, when it comes to a conflict like that. I really think that we should default to the people who are in the communities and live there and understand them. But at the same time, mask mandates are unbelievably draconian, in my opinion, right? Mandating that you must wear a mask, or even worse, what's way worse, right? Because mask mandates, I can see a point where people just sort of get tired of it. Even in democratic cities where people are just like, listen, I'm not doing this anymore. I can see those sort of ending, but worse than mask mandates, vaccine mandates, right? People are going to literally ask for papers to see if you have put this chemical into your body. Otherwise you can't function in society. That is, wow, that is so un-American. Like that drives me nuts, right? So I don't like these things in principle. And at this specific situation, I might be in favor of saying this is kind of what the state and the federal government is for, is to prevent stuff like this. So I might, on these issues, be willing to yield to the state, but it is worth thinking about, right? You want to make sure that you are very critical about what it is you're doing before you go into something like, okay, let's just let the state take care of it. You want to be thinking about that. I think the state has a case here. I think I might be on Abbott's side in this particular issue, but when it comes to this in general, I think the state should stay out of it. Let's move on. Topic the third.
Sorry, Dems, still gonna be arrested. So
have they come back?
No,
I haven't seen anything about them coming back.
Yeah, because they didn't. Yeah, some did, and they're like, oh, see you later. Because Phelan, the House Speaker of Texas, he signed warrants earlier this week for House members. I want to say House criminals, but House members.
They're fugitives
who haven't showed up for their second special session. This is not criminal arrests. If they are arrested, they will not face criminal charges or fines. They will only be brought to the chamber. That's what that means. Despite how I want them to be thrown in prison, throw away the key, it's not going to happen. It's not how the rules are written, and probably good because you have a hothead like me sometimes going like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
So that's at least true. This is according to Houston Chronicle and another site of K Houston, basically talking about Harris County judges. Well, Harris County judges blocked Phelan's order. Said, nope, these are protected. You can't do this.
Yeah.
But Supreme Court on Thursday overruled that Houston judge who had provided the Texas House Democrats with legal shelter, as they called it. So, no, it's not going to fly. It's a good try, but it's not going to fly. There's even another passing of the same voting bill, which is the whole crux of the matter, that was filibustered.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't go anywhere because it was not going to go anywhere. And the person who did it even admitted it was going to go nowhere. She just wanted to speak truth to power. But
that phrase. I hate that phrase.
Yeah.
That phrase and do the work drive me bananas. I hate those. If we could abolish those from the English language, I'd be 100% for it.
We follow most of the Democratic people who are actually in DC or who are still just avoided their actual job. And most of them say, do the work, do the work. The tweet, I was like, bro, you're not even here. You're
not doing any work.
Your own tweet.
You're not doing the work that we hired you to do. And by the way, these people have to have jobs outside of Congress. They only go to Congress every 2 years. They don't make that much money. They've got other jobs.
Yeah.
What are they doing at have their other jobs fired them yet?
Well, I mean, COVID kind of allowed a lot of work from home, so probably a lot of them are working from home.
Probably. And guys, Dems,
I mean, for them is a perfect time. It's like, dude, I was always working from home anyways. I was working from home in DC.
I'll admit, I'm impressed. You guys have held out for a second session, but I'm going to quote Captain American here. I can do this all day. We'll sit here. We'll wait. We'll wait. Are you going to hang out in Washington, D.C. for 2 years? You're going to take a 2-year vacation?
I'm just reminded of Cat Williams. Don't worry, I'll wait.
I'll wait. Seriously. Yeah, I'm sitting here all day. And here's the thing. If they start taking up, there will be a point in which we can start to claim that they have taken residency in DC. And if they've taken residence in DC, they no longer qualify for, to be state representatives.
Domicile is a whole other issue. Basically, you have to intentionally say, I'm going to live here for in permanent and for foreseeable future. They haven't done that, so that's a little tricky. But I will say, like, there's actually an interesting thing. Like I was telling you,
2 years though. 2 years you haven't been in the state. You haven't been present.
We have to figure this. This is all uncharted territory. I'm not the
legal guy here, but that's got to be.
I'm just saying we don't know.
Okay.
The Senate, like I said, the Senate passed the voting bill again on Thursday, but Houston Rep. Carol Alvarado ended a 15-hour filibuster. This woman stood there in sneakers, and she stood nonstop and talked about a bill thanks to a back brace, catheter, and, like I said, sneakers. This woman went all in to speak there. And if you don't know how filibuster works, it's the same thing basically as it is in the House or the Senate. You can stand there as long as possible. You can have a book that you're reading from. You can read Harry Potter if you want to. It doesn't matter as long as you don't lean, sit down, or go to a bathroom break. So you can't use the podium to help you stand up. You can't sit down and then continue to what you're doing. You have to stay standing the entire time. So that's pretty, she did that. That's pretty cool. Admitted it wasn't going to go anywhere. And guess what? It didn't go anywhere.
I'm going to say this about the filibuster. I'm very pro filibuster. I think the filibuster is great. It's a great minority protection. It helps keep, it's a checks and balance that we absolutely need in our government. Right. And by the way, I was saying that when the Republicans had the majority, right, in Congress, not in Texas. We've always had the majority, but it's not always. We've had it for the
1990s.
We've had it since the 90s in Texas. But I'm very pro filibuster. The filibuster is weird, man. If you really think about it, it's a weird thing. I mean, I get it. I understand kind of how it works, but it's like, well, if I can just stand here and talk, then y'all can't do anything. Which is, yeah, it's like it's literally
that's the only thing you have. It's a great thing to have.
We've got legislative policy sitting here saying, you know, we have legislative policy hanging in the balance based on whether or not you have to go to the bathroom. That's weird. Like that's crazy.
You wore a catheter.
Yep.
I was thinking just wear a diaper. You're fine. I mean that makes sense. But she went
gross, man. If you got a diaper, you're sitting on it. So,
but you're not because you're standing.
Yeah.
And if you know you're going to filibuster, you might as well wear the diapers. Like, screw it. I don't care how my butt looks. It may look extra padded today. Who cares? I'm here, and I'm not going to stop until I have to.
That's why we should always, when you elect a representative, make sure that each party has at least one super fit representative that can go for a long time. Ours is Dan Crenshaw. I don't know who the Dems would be, but Dems need to get some. I don't know.
But what I think is really funny is that these same Democrats, because they've been aligning with the House Democrats in DC, those are the ones that said filibuster is racist.
Yep.
But not now.
Not now. It's not racist when we do it. Guys, this is an impressive game of chicken at this point, but that's all it is. You're just playing chicken, and you're not going to sit there for 2 years. We'll figure something out before 2 years comes around. This will get done. Right. And you guys at this point are just being babies, and it's showing up in the polls. I'm not going to lie. Right. If you look at Texans right now, how they feel about their representative, if their representative is not present in the state of Texas, you're seeing a rapid decline, even, by the way, among Texas Democrats, right? Because they want you are here to do a job. Do your job. If you don't like it, change it. If you don't like it, figure a way around it, right? I'm all for the filibuster. If you want to filibuster away, man. That's something that is put in place specifically to protect the minority. But I'm
Filibuster.
I'm not for this nonsense. I'm not for this nonsense. I'm not for, oh, we're going to take our ball and go home. We're going to flee to Washington, D.C. and sit Miller Lite with our buddies up in Congress. No, get your butts back here and do your job. Figure out a way to get it done. If you can't get your agenda passed, sometimes you just got to take your L. And I think that's what they need to do.
Yep.
James, you got any parting thoughts, man, before we get through this 3 Hots episode? We haven't done 3 Hots in a long time. It's
refreshing. We haven't done it. This is my favorite one, but I'm glad we're
do 3 Hots, man. I dig it.
I'm just saying that, we just need to sit back and watch the Democrats lose their own roles and races and everything they have in Texas. It's amazing.
Enjoy the show, friends. That's the only way that you can laugh your way through the darkness, because this is nuts. But friends, here in Texas, the stars at night are big and bright. And we'll see you next week. Hey guys, if you like that content, if you like what we do here, be sure to follow us on social media. Man, I can't get through it. Hold on, let me try it again. Be sure to follow us on social media. We got an Instagram, we have a Twitter, we have Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Facebook, are we still on Facebook, James? What do you think?
I think so. I don't have one.
It'll be all down here in this little card that we got, but go ahead and follow us there. We really appreciate it. Anything you have towards big and bright, please share it. And let's change the world, friends. Let's change the world. Let's change the Texas. Let's just follow.